is the Duke Blue Devils. Manny Diaz's first year as Duke's head coach was really successful and then basically as good as his predecessor, Mike Elko. Duke had a 9-4 record in 2024, which matched their best record in 11 years. Diaz is known as a defensive mastermind, a lot like Mike Elko. That was apparent last year. Duke, among the 25 best schools in America in defensive grade and EPA per play. The offense really lagged behind, though, last year. They were one of the 15 worst in EPA per play in the country last year. Now, they did bring in a new transfer at quarterback in Darian Mensah to help out in that department, and they're hoping for improvement on that side of the ball. But Dalton, Manny Diaz is a coach that loves to blitz. You cannot blitz unless you know you have a great secondary to hold up behind it. Duke absolutely has that.
Absolutely. You talk about masters of zone coverage, zone blitzing especially. When you talk about Duke, Chandler Rivers and Terry Moore in this secondary, this was a team, Max, they had the 9th best coverage grade in the country last season. So all that blitzing and all the scheming that happens up front, it doesn't happen without high-end execution on the back end. You look at them last year, the only team that really got them, Ole Miss got them in the bowl game because they were playing kind of shorthanded, especially offensively. But in the regular season, the only team that really got them heavy, especially in the passing game, was Cam Ward in Miami, which you go, okay, what are you going to do? You got to be that good to beat this secondary. Otherwise, in the regular season, they didn't give up more than 28 points in any game. Manny Diaz went in there from, like you mentioned, previous defensive coach and Mike Elko. Now you got Manny Diaz coming in. It was such a smooth transition, even with an offense that was, I would call it inconsistent, especially with the quarterback play. But man, oh man, the foundation that he sets for this team and what they do on defense. Think about that. The only two teams they even gave up 30 points to all year were Miami and Ole Miss, and those are the two. And those are the two quarterbacks.
Makes sense.
Those are the two quarterbacks who won the first round of the draft.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like you have to be a first-round quarterback to tee off on this on this Duke defense. They were spectacular last year. They just need the offense to match it a little more consistently. This defense makes them a real problem in this conference.
They absolutely do. Yeah. Chandler Rivers was the highest-graded corner in the Power 4 last year. He's back. Terry Moore, the highest-graded safety in the Power 4 last year. He's back too. So that secondary is loaded right now. The weakness is the run game right now because it really wasn't a great rushing attack for Duke last year. In fact, Duke only averaged 3.5 yards per carry. That's the fewest in the country last year. And their leading rusher, Star Thomas, he transferred to Tennessee this offseason too. Now, you did return Jaquez Moore from injury, so that is a plus. But Duke really needs significant improvement from their running backs and their offensive line too, especially considering, Dalton, you break it down right now, Darian Mensah really relies on play action. If you don't have a good run game, that play action is not going to work that well in the offense, so they need to have a much better run game next year.
Yeah, so Mensah's fun, and there's a lot of people high on his talent. Some people look at him kind of a similar build and delivery as Jordan Love. There's a little bit of that in there, but he's coming from Tulane. He was a low-volume, high-efficiency passer because there was a lot of two tight ends and running the ball with Mekhi Hughes in that offense, and you had a lot of play action, right? So what you're talking about is a guy he had the 4th most yards per attempt in the country last year. He had a top 20 passing grade last year. It kind of came in the areas where he was strong. He was really strong. Throwing between the numbers, 90.9 passing grade, 7th best in the country. 12 of his 17 big-time throws were on play action, tied for 6th most in the country. So you're looking at, if you have a team that you want to run the football with, and he can get under center a little bit. He played a good amount under center even at Tulane. Then you're talking about a guy who can be really efficient, especially on those deep crosses. There are some throws that remind you a little bit of Jordan Love. I'm like, yeah, those are the good ones there. The biggest thing for him is obviously as a freshman playing last year, a redshirt freshman, 4.5% turnover-worthy play rate. That's a little bit high, right? And to me, he throws much better and the numbers bear this out, much better to his right than to his left. There's some footwork that he's got to work on throwing to his left that kind of it kind of hinders his accuracy a bit. So when you're talking about just rounding his game out and fixing the weaknesses in it, I have it right here, actually. On the left half of the field, he only completes 62% of his passes. On the right half, 77%.
Wow.
So it's just that there's this bit of footwork that needs to be fixed for him when throwing to his left, little over rotation. But I think when you're talking about Mensah, there's definitely a really nice foundation to work with because he's got enough arm talent to make just about any throw on the field.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch him next year. I got a massive NIL deal at Duke, and I'm excited to watch what he could do with that offense next year, try and improve that offense too. Now, the player spotlight for him is Brian Parker II on that offensive line, who really could help out protecting Darian Mensah. Split time between left tackle and right tackle in 2023. Parker really played on the right side in 2024. What's remained constant over the last 2 years, he has been a dominant pass blocker for Duke. 84.9 pass blocking grade over the last 2 years. Tied for 12th among all tackles in college football and is the best of any returning tackle in college football. He's only averaged 2.5% pressure rate allowed over the last 2 years and a 0.4% knockdown rate allowed, which is basically sacks plus hits. Both of those are top 15 marks in the country as well. He's one of the best returning pass blockers in college football, and he is critical for Darian Mensah's development. Dalton, after having an outstanding first-round pick on the offensive line in Graham Barton, Brian Parker, maybe not a first-round pick, but I think he's a future NFL offensive lineman.
Duke is starting to get this good little tradition here of solid offensive lines and offensive linemen. I remember Jacob Monk as well. He's a Green Bay Packer. I mean,
back in the day, Laken Tomlinson went to Duke.
Laken Tomlinson. Yeah. They've got this tradition now. They've gotten some good offensive linemen in recent years. Parker's another one for sure. And for as much as, like I said, Mensah likes to take those deep dropbacks, those deep play-action dropbacks, 10, 11 yards deep in the backfield and have time to make those throws kind of, again, in a similar Jordan Love kind of manner to having a pass protector like Brian Parker on that blind side. That's going to be a big asset for him.
Yeah, definitely. All right, next up is Chandler Rivers, Dawn, the defensive player spotlight, and who's a fantastic corner in that defense.
I'll tell you, he was playing previously under Mike Elko in a zone coverage-heavy defense, and that didn't change with Manny Diaz. He decided to stick around, and that was the right choice. He tied for the highest PFF grade among Power 4 cornerbacks last year with first-round pick Jahdae Barron. He was the second most valuable corner in the country behind Notre Dame's Leonard Moore. This is a master of zone coverage who uses his eyes to really get a read on quarterbacks, right, and break on the football on the outside. If you want to mess around on the outside throwing the ball, especially out to the wide side of the field against Chandler Rivers, you're going to have a problem because I guarantee you he's a step ahead of most wide receivers he's playing against. A huge reason why this Duke secondary is so elite. Obviously, we've talked about Terry Moore and the safeties also, but Chandler Rivers is really darn good. And even if he's out there on the boundary, you got to watch out for him as a blitzer too, because Manny Diaz, he's bringing blitzes from all over the place, and that includes his corners.
Absolutely. Chandler Rivers, like I said before, the highest graded corner in the Power 4 last year. He's just a phenomenal player in that secondary alongside Terry Moore, who's just a phenomenal player at safety too. Bottom line time now, Dalton. So their win total is set at 6.5 right now after a 9-4 record last year. Really a 9-3 season too. So they went 2.5 games over that last year. Are you going the over or under? And what's the bottom line for Duke?
I'm taking the over. I don't think this is a terrible schedule. There's two really fun games early in the season. Number one, week 2 at home against Illinois. I think it's going to be huge. That's going to what you talk about a couple of secondaries that we've mentioned a lot.
Yeah.
Man, oh man. I mean, that game. I don't know if that game might be 10-7 or if those two quarter hit. If Mensah and Altmaier are going to be struggling in that game, but they're playing Illinois week 2, and then of course. The next week after that, they are at Tulane for the return. The return of Darian Mensah at Tulane. I mean, that's just going to
Mensah against Red Sox potentially.
Oh, good call. It could be. We'll find out. That Tulane situation's wide open now, but that could be a fun one. But I'll tell you something. I like how this schedule shakes out for Duke. I think because they're Duke and they don't always have the best football reputation, people don't really believe in them. But I think this defense alone could win them 7 games, honestly, with the schedule. I'm like, the only game on this whole schedule I'm looking at, I'm like, no, is at Clemson. And you know what? If you're going to play Clemson, who leans much more towards the pass and they do the run, this secondary could give them some issues. I could see that. Sure, why not? But I think otherwise, their other 11 games, they're right in all of them. I think winning at least 7 of them should be the expectation.
So I'll say it right now. I'm not picking them to make the ACC title game. This is a sleeper to make the ACC title game. I really think so. You look at that schedule. They could make the ACC title game.
The Clemson game is the only game where I'm just going to be like, okay, no. It's obviously what we think of Clemson. But you're looking at this. You look at long road trips. Cal is really the only one, and I like Duke better than Cal. Then the next longest road trip is the Tulane one. We're going to know a lot. I think week 2, how Mensah looks against Illinois. If this team, and they get them at home, if this team beats Illinois, we're gonna know something, because they can absolutely. That's gonna be a great football game, and then we're gonna know this early part of their ACC schedule really shakes out well for them. I'm with you. They're a dark horse in this conference.
Yeah.
If Mensa lives up to that hype, because he got a good chunk of change to go there, right? He could have stayed at Tulane and probably run the group of 5 this year, but Duke's got talent, and they've got. I don't know if it's just people don't want to believe in him or what, but 6.5 is probably too low.
Dude. If you're a sleeper to not win the conference, but make the conference title game, and your win total is 6.5, that's an over. I'm taking the over on Duke next year. I think this is like an 8-4 football team. Right now, I'm predicting 8-4. They can go above that too. Like I really think this team is going to be much better than a 6-6 or 7-5 football team. I think it can go above that too. So
they went 9-3 last year.
Yeah.
And you could have a better if Mensa is significantly better than Malik Murphy.
And Murphy was solid last year.
Yeah, he was solid, but it was up and down. There were times when it was like, okay, this team struggles throwing the ball. If Mensa is more consistent than Murphy, I mean, they went 9-3 last year, and their offense wasn't great. 6.5 is too low. I'm with it.
Hey, thanks for watching another episode of the PFF College Football Show. Please make sure you guys subscribe to the channel.
Also, subscribe to PFF Plus at subscribe.pff.com for all of the same data and grades that we use in our show, plus fantasy tools, betting tools, and our mock draft simulator.